What's up? Today I'm going to be explaining this internet mysteries, anomalies, and rabbit holes iceberg. There's a lot of stuff on this iceberg, and some things I might not be able to find a lot of information on, but I'll do my best to find as much as I can on everything. Also, I've already covered some of this stuff in my unsettling media videos, so for those, I'll just show you that clip from those videos. At the time of writing this, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but this is a pretty large iceberg, so it's probably going to be a while. I'm also sick, by the way. We are starting on level 1, the gallery. Chris Chan. So, I know a lot of you already know who Chris Chan is. For those of you who don't, Christine, West, and Chandler started uploading comics by the name of Sonichu to their personal website in 1999. This is mostly why they became popular, but throughout their entire life, there have just been so many different things that have happened that were brought to prominence on the internet. I wouldn't be able to cover everything in this one video alone, and there's plenty of other information on this platform if you're interested. FNF mods. So, Friday Night Funkin' is a popular rhythm game originally released in 2021. The premise of the game is that you have to battle your opponents to stay with your girlfriend. Since it was released for Game Jam, the base game doesn't have a significant amount of content, which led to the creation of mods for the game. There are a ton of mods for this game. For example, on this website alone, there are 56 pages. Some mods for this game are pretty odd, but it's pretty regular on the surface. Nintendo Giga Leak. In 2018 through 2021, Nintendo experienced a series of data leaks caused by anonymous users on 4chan. Media ranging from game source code to documentations were made public in 10 main sets of leaks, beginning on March of 2018 and ending in July of 2021. There were a lot of different companies and people involved, but in 2019, Zamis Clark, I think that's how you say that, was sentenced to 15 months in prison for the infiltration of Microsoft and Nintendo servers. Mario 64 conspiracies. This entry is just referring to the abundance of conspiracy theories surrounding Super Mario 64. Most of these are outlined in this iceberg. These range from small Easter eggs found in the game to allegations that Nintendo stole the game itself. Creepypasta. So, creepypastas are fictional horror stories created and shared on the internet. That's pretty much all there is to it. You've definitely heard of a lot of creepypastas like One-Eyed Jack and Slenderman. Lost media. Lost media is physical or digital media that is no longer publicly available or accessible. This could be for countless reasons, but most often things are just lost to time or were very obscure to begin with and were never archived. You can research lost media at the Lost Media Wiki. Iceberg charts. I'm pretty sure you know how this one works. Iceberg charts are graphics that outline the obscurity of topics in tiers based on an iceberg. The idea is that the deeper down the iceberg you go, the more obscure or mysterious the entries are. NFTs. Non-fungible tokens are digital assets or pieces of digital media which are bought and sold on the internet. As I'm sure you're aware, NFTs have been met with plenty of controversy. This is for a variety of reasons, but one is that when you buy an NFT, you don't actually own the media. You just have a digital token that says you own it. That's probably a bit of an oversimplification, but that's the best way I could put it into words. Rule 34. Cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is just a digital form of currency. Cryptocurrency is stored and transferred digitally with encryption algorithms. Some of the most popular ones are Bitcoin and Ethereum. DeviantArt. DeviantArt is a website for sharing artistic media. There's definitely a weird side to this website, and that's kind of what it's known for. Learning with Pibby. Learning with Pibby is a teased television show which was premiered on Adult Swim's YouTube channel back in October of 2021. The basic premise is that a character from a fictional children's show is going about as usual when a glitchy darkness starts seeping into the world around them. For the following weeks, you could see Pibby glitched into other episodes of shows on Adult Swim. Bronies. According to whatisabrony.com, a brony is a grown-up fan of My Little Pony, namely of the 2010 show. Bronies are a community of fans who simply aren't afraid to admit that they enjoy a colorful, fun show. PragerU. PragerU is an advocacy group founded in 2009 by Alan Estrin and Dennis Prager. They create and share radical right media which often contains completely false information on topics like climate change and United States immigration. A total of 21 of their YouTube videos have been age restricted by YouTube, which ultimately led to PragerU filing a lawsuit against YouTube in 2017, which they lost. Vaporwave. Vaporwave is an aesthetic or style of media which puts emphasis on smooth jazz from the 80s and 90s, airy electronic synthesizers, old Windows graphics and VHS effects, among other things. Flat Earthers. Flat Earthers are people that, in 2023, still believe that the Earth is flat. Now, the amount of people who actually believe this versus the amount that are just joking around is kind of ambiguous, but this is the internet, and there are a lot of odd people on here. Trevor Henderson. Trevor Henderson is a Canadian artist who's responsible for the creation of many internet horror stories and cryptids such as Siren Head. After he created Siren Head, a game developer called Modus Interactive created a game based on Siren Head, which led to its significant spike in popularity. PNG tubers. PNG tubers are a category of YouTubers who use a PNG icon as their avatar. They're really common on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, including YouTubers like Jellybean. Elsagate. The term Elsagate concerns a controversy that was especially prominent in 2016 and 2017. Basically, on the YouTube Kids app, children were being shown videos that YouTube had categorized as child-friendly because of their use of recognizable characters from media like Frozen and Spider-Man, and sometimes even actual children. But in these videos, the things that the characters were doing definitely weren't family-friendly. In August of 2017, YouTube began utilizing stricter guidelines on the Kids app, and channels like Toy Freaks were terminated. The Backrooms. The idea of the Backrooms was created on May 12th, 2019, when a 4chan user posted this photo with the accompanying caption. This idea has evolved, and now there's a Backrooms wiki with countless stages and entities, and dozens of backroom games and short films. SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation started in January of 2008. It's a fictional organization which contains anomalous entities or objects in a place away from human civilization. These entities, if they were to coexist with humanity, would have detrimental effects, which is why they're being contained. On the SCP Wiki, users can write and share SCP stories or mock lab reports. Liminal spaces. A liminal space is normally a place which is devoid of people or recognizable landmarks. It's often defined as a transitional location, but this is a pretty loose definition. These liminal spaces are meant to give off an unsettling aura, but you can't always tell why. I'll throw in some of my favorite right now. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is a YouTube series created by Becky Sloan and Joe Pelling in July of 2011. The series follows 3 characters of a children's television show who are repeatedly thrown into situations which throws off the course of each episode.
Shut up! Don't touch me! What? Welcome to my digital home. Everything made out of numbers and code.
It's a commentary on how corporations or popular media producers can take over and warp the outcomes of simpler projects made by people who aren't involved with show business. The main 6 episodes came to a conclusion in 2016, but as of September of 2022, the show's on a British network called Channel 4 with 8 new episodes. It's pretty cool. Analog horror. Analog horror is a genre of horror which is characterized by VHS filters, low-quality graphics, and found footage. If you've heard of the Mandela Catalog or Skinamarink, those are both analog horror. Speaking of the Mandela Catalog is an analog horror series on YouTube created by Alex Kister in June of 2021. The premise is that, in Mandela County, there are these creatures appearing called alternates. These alternates resemble people, but they will always have something incredibly off about them. Whether that be that they're freakishly tall, or they have an impossibly malformed face, these alternates will terrorize anyone who makes contact with them until the person eventually commits suicide. Country balls. Country balls, or country humans, are basically entire countries represented within a ball or person in animation. This sounds really confusing saying it out loud. Basically, it's a style of animation which portrays countries as circles with their flag on it. The creation of this style dates all the way back to 2009, when on this website called drawball.com, users were creating a ball with the Polish flag on it, which kind of led to the creation of this whole thing. TCRF. Okay, the Cutting Room Floor is a website which researches any and all unused or cut content from video games. There is so much information on this website, and it's really interesting to read through about games you've played before. It was originally created by Rachel May in 2002, and since then it's only become more popular. FNAF lore. This entry is referring to the sheer abundance of Five Nights at Freddy's lore. MatPat recently did like a 4-part series over the entire timeline, and it's just insane how much there is to it. Creepy PSAs. This entry is just referring to creepy public service announcements that have existed. Some of the most popular of these are Mess, Monsters, and Lonely Water.
It's too late for all that now, because this isn't where it stops. It's where it all begins.
Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 was a set of 3 cryptography puzzles posted online in 2012. The first 2 puzzles were solved relatively shortly after becoming public, but to this day, the third one still hasn't been solved. Supposedly, the purpose of these puzzles was to recruit other skilled cryptographers, but this might not be true. When the first puzzle was solved by a guy named Marcus Warner, he was asked questions about his stance on digital information censorship. After this, he was whitelisted to a private forum to complete other projects. Object shows. So, object shows are animated web series where the cast is made up of objects that are normally inanimate. The first object show was Battle for Dream Island, which came out in 2010. And although they aren't as popular as they used to be, there's still a solid amount out there. Everywhere at the End of Time. Everywhere at the End of Time is a collection of 6 studio albums released between 2016 and 2019 by The Caretaker. The music uses ballroom samples with varying production effects, and over time, the music in each stage degrades and gets gradually less coherent. The idea of this project is to simulate the effects of dementia, starting with merely slightly noticeable looping or distortion, but ending with long droning sections, and the music being barely coherent. People who've listened to the entire thing have said that it actually feels like you are undergoing the devastating effects of dementia. Weirdcore. Weirdcore is an aesthetic which focuses on extremely odd graphics and text that doesn't really make any sense. A lot of the photos are very bright in color, but give off a very unsettling vibe. Often this style is associated with nostalgia, disassociation, and dread. It's unknown when Weirdcore began, but it's thought to have its origins somewhere in 2010. Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is a psychological phenomenon which occurs when many people have a common misremembrance. For example, you know how Pikachu has this little black detail on the end of his tail? Well, he doesn't. This is what it actually looks like, but a lot of people seem to remember this being there. Homebrew. Homebrew is a utility tool for macOS and Linux. It installs a lot of things that are really useful that don't come with the base operating system. Some of these things include a built-in YouTube video downloader, a messenger client, and a lot of optimization features. Fake anti-piracy screens. So, fake anti-piracy screens were made kind of in a way to make fun of Nintendo for going insane with copyright. If you didn't know, Nintendo is extremely strict with anyone who mods or emulates their games, pretty much doing everything in their power to remove it as soon as possible. So, people are making these fake anti-piracy screens to mock Nintendo. 4chan. 4chan is an anonymous image board website for users to share photos and information. It's gonna appear in this chart a lot later on. Local 58. Local 58 is a YouTube horror series created by Chris Straub in 2015. Every episode is footage of a television channel called Local 58, which is repeatedly hijacked with sinister intentions. Siva Gunner. Siva Gunner is a YouTube channel which uploads rips of Nintendo game music. The thing about these songs, though, is that they're usually remixes or mashups of the original song. This isn't stated anywhere on the channel though, so if someone just came by to get one of these songs, they'd be pretty confused. This guy also has a channel called Giva Sunner, where he uploads actual game music. Kate Yup. Kate Yup is a YouTuber who uploads mukbang videos of herself eating copious amounts of seafood. She doesn't really say anything in these videos, and she can only speak a small amount of English. People originally thought that she had been wearing an eye mask in these videos, but it was later confirmed that she had a nose deformity, so she just wears a nose mask. After a little bit, people started getting pretty suspicious about this channel due to its weird nature. People started noticing that she was getting visible cuts and bruises as well. She also says that she is alone in these videos, but on multiple occasions you can hear another voice saying things like, "Eat faster," or "I'm gonna kill you." To make matters even worse, multiple of her video titles have spelled out things like SOS or help in strangely capitalized letters. There are a ton of other things too, and eventually in 2019, she stopped uploading completely. A lot of people were theorizing what could have happened to her, but nothing ever really stuck. In October of 2022, however, she did upload again to let people know that she's still alive and well. It is a really weird situation, but it's highly likely that it could just be some sort of gimmick or a channel that's just trying to garner views. Free Robux scams. Free Robux scams are exactly what they sound like. Websites that tell you to put in your username and password, and then you'll get free Robux. Don't fall for it, your account's just gonna get stolen. Bootleg toys. So bootleg toys are just kind of like regular toys, commonly action figures that aren't licensed by the actual company and are just made to look like the original. YouTube H Easter egg. So apparently, for some time, if you removed certain letters from the YouTube URL when watching a video, it would redirect you to some weird places. Basically, if you removed the H or C from watch, it would take you to a video on the channel 666. There were other channels as well, which people found to be somewhat connected or similar in nature. Since then, this has been patched, and now it will just take you to an error page. Markiplier did do a video about it back in the day.
3, 2, 1...
Copypasta. Copypasta is just a string of text, often a story or joke, that is copied and pasted in places all over the internet. Subliminal messaging in songs. This one's a pretty far-fetched idea. Some people in the 80s believed that in rock and roll music, there was subliminal messaging which would get kids to commit acts of the devil. This was supposedly done through a process called backmasking. This process literally just consisted of playing a backwards recording deep within the mix of a song. For example, if you listen to Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin backwards, it says scary things. This is clearly just a coincidence, or like people hearing words where there really aren't any. Scientology. I would have absolutely no way to cover this in one video, let alone within this section. In the simplest of terms, Scientology is a religion founded in the 1950s, which relies on pseudoscience to allow people to improve themselves spiritually. Scientology is often seen as a cult due to its secretive nature. We live in a simulation theory. So this is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's the belief that our universe is being digitally simulated somewhere, possibly in a different dimension. This could also mean that people lack actual free will, and that all of our actions and thoughts are predetermined. Elon Musk believes in this simulation theory, which he discussed with Joe Rogan on his podcast.
If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality.
Lasagna Cat. Lasagna Cat is a web series which is a live-action recreation of Garfield comics. It was created by Fatal Farm in 2008. The thing about these episodes is normally they're about 4 to 5 minutes long, but the last episode in the series is 5 hours long. For the first 4.5 hours, it's a repeated cycle of John and Garfield reading the paper, only for a mannequin to knock on their door, state an arbitrary name, say the number of sexual partners they've had, and then the shot zooms out to reveal it was a panel in the newspaper.
Who's there?
Jaden Gitchell.
Jaden Gitchell who?
It's Jaden Gitchell, and I've had 3 sexual partners.
By the time that it's almost fully dark outside, John himself answers the door, saying, John Arbuckle 2. Only for the John who answered the door to laugh and say, John Arbuckle 0. The John who knocked on the door then walks away, becoming visually more and more disheveled until he finds himself on top of a mountain. A person dressed like a cat runs up to him, and John disappears, his clothes falling to the ground, filled with worms. I'm not gonna read this next part out loud. It's pretty graphic, but you can read it right here if you want. Highly Trained Monkey's error page. Level 2, the living room. Jeff the Killer image origin. So, you've seen the Jeff the Killer image before. It pretty much just looks like somebody's face with a lot of face app filters on it. Thing is though, the origins of this photo are still pretty mysterious. One of its first appearances was in this horrifying Japanese video back in 2007, which I'll show you now. It's really weird and also pretty loud, so I really don't want to edit this part. It's like the middle of the night. The title of the video translates from Japanese to NNN Special Broadcast. I don't know anything about this video, but there are a few leading theories on where this photo actually came from. One states that on 4chan, a girl posted a photo of herself asking if she was pretty, to which someone responded with this photoshopped photo of her with the caption, "Now you are." Another claims that the photo is just a guy who edited himself to make himself scary and then posted it on Newgrounds. Most mysterious song on the internet. Okay, so this one's quite the journey. So in 1984, a man records a song he hears from an unknown radio station. The station is suspected to be NDR1 on the program Music für junge Leute, or Music for Young People. Then, in 2007, the man's sister, Lydia, asks him about this song recording and posts the snippet to multiple places on the internet, hoping to find out what the song was. In 2011, a complete version of the song is found on a tape that Lydia finds in her house. Since 2019, when the subreddit was created, there haven't really been many advances in the search for who created the song or what the title is or anything else about it. Paul is dead theory. In 1966, a rumor started spreading that claimed that Paul McCartney from the Beatles had died in a car crash, and that, to spare the public from the grief, the rest of the Beatles replaced him with a lookalike and just didn't say anything about it. People cite these images from 1966 and 1967, where Paul McCartney looks a little bit different. This is pretty clearly not true, and it was later found that John Lennon just kind of started this rumor as a joke. Logo edits. So, from what I can tell, the logo editing or logo effects community is a group of people who just put really weird video and audio effects on brand logos. I found this video, and it's actually just a whole series, where he just edits the Burger King logo in really weird ways. The comments on these videos act like it's like the second coming of Christ. There's an entire wiki about all this, and it lists these like effect presets that apparently are pretty common in the community. We're gonna see another entry later on this list that's affiliated with this one. Soulja Boy consoles. So in 2018, Soulja Boy, the rapper, made, for some reason, a game console. It supposedly comes pre-installed with Netflix, Spotify, and Apple Music, and is capable of running Switch, PlayStation Vita, and Game Boy games. It also came loaded with 800 different games, all from a variety of consoles. At the end of the day, it was literally just a Chinese piece of plastic that Soulja Boy put a sticker on. Lomando.com. So Lomando.com is this website, and when you open the website, it looks like this fun, lighthearted, colorful page. But when you start the game that the website hosts, it's this horror, haunted house point and click. And there's like jump scares and everything. The world record for 100%ing the game is about 20 minutes as far as I could tell, which seems like kind of a lot for a browser game. There's like bosses and everything. Saki Sonabashi, or Go for a Punch. Okay, so back in 2004, on a 4chan thread, a user simply asked, "What is the most disturbing thing you've ever seen on the dark web?" Another user replied to this and claimed that they found a lost anime called Saki Sonabashi, or Go for a Punch. Now, the exact plot of this anime is pretty ambiguous, but overall, it was about this group of girls who were trapped in an underground bathroom facility and were tortured in extremely sadistic ways. But in about 2019, someone made a post on the dedicated search subreddit for this anime. The user claimed that they made up the story of Saki Sonabashi just as a bit of messing around and never expected anything to come of it. Then they saw the video that Wang made about the anime and were really surprised to see that there had become this whole search thing. So they made this post to kind of end the search or clear their conscience, as they said. There's really no way to prove that this is the guy, and I guess it could just be another troll, but I mean, it's probably him. The subreddit is still semi-active, but it's pretty much just a bunch of nothing now. I'm Sorry John. I'm Sorry John is a community of people who basically draw really grotesque and horrific depictions of Garfield and his owner, John. Hong Kong 97. So Hong Kong 97 was a game released in Japan in 1995. It was an unlicensed game that ran on a Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's really poorly made and also like incredibly difficult. And whenever you die, it just straight up shows you a picture of a dead guy. The creator pretty much came out and said that he just made it to be a purposefully bad game. Tara the Android. Tara the Android is technically a musical artist. She's actually just a mannequin though. She performs the song I Feel Fantastic, which is a bit of an odd one. Blowfly Girl. I literally cannot talk about this on YouTube, and even if I could, I wouldn't. This one is genuinely sickening. I just read the blog post. I'm not gonna tell you anything about it, except that I just want to take a shower now. I know if I tell you not to look it up, you're just going to anyway. So just, like, be prepared for genuine disgust. Dan Schneider. So back in the days of iCarly, like the TV show, one of the actors on the show was this guy named Dan Schneider. Well, in 2018, it came out that he was engaging in some misconduct on some other actors. I won't get into it, but he did lose his partnership with Nickelodeon. Gravity Falls Cypher Hunt. So, back in 2016, Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, held this ARG about searching for clues about the show in the real world. The end goal was to find this statue of Bill Cipher from the show, which also had a chest full of goodies. Firefest. Okay, so back in 2017, Billy McFarland was gonna host this big music event called Fire Festival. They leased this island just off the Bahamas to host the whole thing at. Everything there was gonna be super nice, the tents were gonna be like luxury, and everything was gonna be cashless and prepaid. Well, on the day it opened, April 27, it was pouring rain, which soaked all of the tents, which were apparently not waterproof. Most of the bands who were going to be there canceled at the last minute due to the circumstances. The gourmet food looked like this. Basically, the whole thing just kind of fell apart. After this, Billy McFarland was charged with fraud and got 6 years in prison and had to pay a fine of $26 million. Caillou Gets Grounded. Caillou Gets Grounded is this really odd genre of YouTube videos where it basically just shows the characters from Caillou doing something abhorrent and then getting grounded for like unbelievable amounts of time.
I'm not going to the store.
Crap.
Is everyone okay? This is all Kaylee's fault.
These videos are pretty much all made with this program called Go Animate, which makes the production quality pretty dicey. Dave and Bambi. Okay, Dave and Bambi is the name of a Friday Night Funkin' mod. The characters are from the game Baldi's Basic. That's like all the notable information there is. I don't really know why this one's on here. Homestuck. So, Homestuck is this online comic strip, which was apparently entirely illustrated in Microsoft Paint. It's also like somewhat interactive, and you can click on things. Szechuan sauce public freakouts. Okay, this one is pretty funny. In this one episode of Rick and Morty, Rick gets this sauce called Szechuan sauce. Apparently, this was a real dipping sauce at McDonald's for some time. Well, in 2017, this kid posted this video of him going to McDonald's and like freaking out because they didn't have Szechuan sauce.
Where's my Szechuan sauce? I'm Pickle Rick! Rick! I'm Pickle Rick!
Animation memes. From what I can tell, animation memes are just people animating funny things to a song. I don't really know. Trollage. So, we all know the original troll face, right? Well, a few years ago, somebody photoshopped it to look scary and kind of made it into this unofficial creepypasta. It's often used in those, like, really bad Sigma male YouTube shorts. Alex Bale SpongeBob theories. There's a YouTuber called Alex Bale who makes these really far-fetched SpongeBob conspiracy theories. I'm not gonna go into it because I'm not really a big SpongeBob guy. But yeah, they're by far his most viewed videos on his channel. Full stop punctuation. Go to YouTube, type in a single period, click enter, and you will find some of the most absurd stuff. Like straight up some of this I just can't show you. I don't know why this is the case. I found this playlist of these videos that are just straight up terrifying. Mario plushie channels. Yeah, so you might have heard of Super Mario Logan. He basically makes these videos with different plushies, particularly Mario characters, just saying things that they would never actually say. These videos are super popular, getting millions of views per upload. Pianos that aren't animated correctly. So this one is just referring to how in like almost all fictional media that shows someone playing a piano, they're pretty much never animated to what's actually playing.
She's as cute as a button in the eyes of everyone who ever laid their eyes on Coraline.
I don't think it's like actually a big deal. It's just kind of funny. Scalies. Scalies are just furries, but instead of fur, they have scales. Jesus Christ. Real life Quandale Dingle. Quandale Dingle, the guy from the meme, is actually a real guy who plays football in Fort Lauderdale, apparently. I mean, you gotta feel for the guy. Heaven's Gate. Back in 1974, a religion, or like pretty much a cult, was founded by Bonnie Nettles and Marshall Applewhite. The main focus of this religion was that people could achieve immortality as extraterrestrial beings if they rejected their human nature. Then they would reach Heaven's Gate and ascend to what they called the next level. On March 26 of 1997, all 39 members of the group committed mass suicide, coinciding with the closest appearance of Halley's Comet to the Earth. To die, they ingested fatal amounts of a certain prescription drug and tied plastic bags over their head. So, yeah, Balloon Boy hoax. So, back in October of 2009, the Heen family released a helium balloon into the sky that looked like a UFO above Fort Collins, Colorado. The family claimed that their 6-year-old son Falcon was in the balloon. The balloon flew for about 90 minutes before landing on the ground. When authorities checked inside and the boy wasn't there, they flew roughly 50 miles in a helicopter searching for the boy before it was revealed that the boy was hiding in the attic of their home. The family actually did this whole thing just as a publicity stunt. This led to the father serving 90 days in jail and having to pay a fee of roughly $36,000. Lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is when someone is asleep and in a dream, but they know that they're in a dream, so they essentially have control over the entire thing, and it's really vivid. Supposedly, you can learn to lucid dream and do it regularly, but the ways to do this are pretty ambiguous. Fake cartoon gangster merchandise. So I think this is just talking about how you can buy clothing or other merchandise that shows the characters of a cartoon, often a children's cartoon, doing things that they wouldn't normally do, like smoking or drinking. Monkey hate. So there's this really weird group of people on YouTube that go into the comments of videos of monkeys and just say the most messed up things about the monkeys. Like there's a playlist on YouTube of just monkeys being abused by other monkeys, and the comments just love it. Chemtrails theory. So this is a conspiracy that the government is spreading toxic chemicals in the atmosphere through aircraft smoke. These chemicals then, help the government with mind control or reduce life expectancy. This one's pretty out there. Among Us pareidolia. Pareidolia is the phenomenon of seeing what appear to be faces or other familiar things in things that aren't actually what they look like. That was a pretty poor explanation, so here's an example. Do you see a face in this photo? You probably do. Or this one. This brings us to Among Us pareidolia. Agamemnon Counterpart. Agamemnon Counterpart is this odd YouTube video that was uploaded in the early days of YouTube. The original video isn't up anymore, but you can watch re-uploads. It was basically like this really weird kids cartoon, but it was really distorted and it was just people screaming. Tumblr Sexy Man. Okay, a Tumblr Sexy Man is any fictional character who's extremely popular among the Tumblr community for being attractive. Common examples include the Onceler, Sans from Undertale, and Bill Cipher. Polkamp Ball. So this one's pretty similar to Poland Ball, but instead of focusing on countries, it instead portrays political ideologies. So there might be a communism ball or a capitalism ball. Downfall parodies. So these downfall parodies are also known as parodies. They pretty much just make memes out of him or make fun of him using movie scenes that have him in them. Alright, you made it past the first 2 levels. This is where things are gonna get pretty interesting and a bit more obscure, so you might want some eggnog for this one. Yummer. So, the Yummer is this unused character that was found in the files of the game SpongeBob Saves the Day. Apparently, this character became a running joke around their office, and they used him as a placeholder for sprites in the game. They just forgot to take him out of the files before releasing it. Komeda Love Mail. Komeda Love Mail is the name of this Tumblr blog where these writers basically just post whatever they want. It follows this loose theme about this alternate universe where there are these non-human entities. These things all just live in this large self-sufficient community. Other than that, though, it's pretty much just full of random stuff. Phoenix Games. So, Phoenix Games was this Dutch game publishing company back in, like, the early 2010s. They had deals with over 50 different game studios, and they cranked out these really low-quality games for various consoles. Some examples include White Van Racer, Disney's Dinosaur, and Wacky Zoo GP. Video Bring Kato. This one is pretty similar to Phoenix Games, but these people make movies instead of video games. They basically would make these really low-budget rip-offs of other films that were more popular. So, you might have heard of this one, but they made the movie Ratatouille, of course ripping off the Disney film Transformers, Little Panda Fighter, Little Cars, Little and Big Monsters. They had a lot of little movies. PK Kid. So there are these 2 graffiti artists. They're primarily in New York and New Jersey, and they graffiti these tags on like incredibly public places. Some absolutely crazy places to graffiti. One of these people is PK and the other is Kid, and when one of them goes to tag something, they put up the other's name as like respect or something. I'm not completely sure if this is true, but apparently one of them died a few years ago, so now the one who's still alive puts the other's tag up. I'm not sure on that one, though. Anime Bath Scene Wiki. Okay, this is straight up just an entire website that documents bath scenes in different animes. Pizza Time Pizza. So, Pizza Time Pizza is the name of this web series made by Alex Bale, if you remember him from earlier. It's just about this pizza shop that's, like, really weird and also a cult, and they sacrifice people to achieve their, like, ascension. Totaka's Song. Kazumi Totaka is a composer and sound director at Nintendo. In every game that he's worked on, he's snuck in a small tune as a bit of an Easter egg. This is it in Animal Crossing New Horizons. LHOHQ. The LHOHQ, or Laughing Horse's Orifice Headquarters, is this really odd website with these really weird graphics and imagery. I won't show you too much of the website, because it starts to get pretty romantic. It goes on about all these conspiracy theories and like how there are all these corrupt governmental figures. At one point, it shows you a list of any political or noble figure that's been charged with sexual assault or rape. It's pretty much been found out that it's just an art project by these guys, Mark Escribiano and Dmitry Miaskowski. The Wizard of Oz production hell. So, throughout the production of the Wizard of Oz movie, there were like a lot of things that went wrong. First of all, they went through 7 directors throughout the course of filming, which led to a lot of inconsistencies, and also one of the directors smacked Judy Garland, the main character, because she messed up during this one scene, and he also told her that she could only eat certain foods and smoke cigarettes because he wanted her to lose weight. Overall, it was a complete mess, but I guess the movie turned out alright. Mario 64 Beta Archive. So, this is a YouTube channel which looks to be a channel documenting old beta versions of Super Mario 64. This channel isn't real, it's just an ARG, but it is pretty cool. This video shows a crash screen, which is honestly pretty terrifying. Voynich Manuscript. The Voynich Manuscript is this book that's been carbon dated back to the 1400s, written in a language that, to this day, nobody knows. It reads left to right, It's currently at 240 pages, but there's evidence to suggest that some pages are missing. It's thought to maybe be some sort of cryptography because it's from the Italian Renaissance, which means we should be able to read it. It's either that or it could have been like the local language of a really small town that died out. It's currently held at the Yale University Rare Manuscript Library. Dr. Amigo. So Dr. Amigo is the name of a seemingly real place, or it used to be real. They used this like really bad ripoff of Mario as their mascot, and they were just a family clinic, but some pretty bad stuff happened with the owner, and it shut down. Domino's app featuring Hatsune Miku. So for some reason, back in 2013, Domino's, exclusively in Japan, had a food delivery app which collaborated with Hatsune Miku.
Domino's app featuring Hatsune Miku. Hatsune Miku exists in a software called Vocaloid. Vocaloid enables you to produce songs. A character named Hatsune Miku sings the songs you create. A great feature is you can create songs as you like. I knew our talented Domino's Pizza crew could work together and create great Vocaloid songs. Bokoropi, Eshi, Chokyoshi.
I don't know why they did this, but pretty much everything about it is now discontinued. Video game sound sources. So I'm pretty sure that this one is just referring to this website called The Sounds Resource. It just archives a bunch of different video game sounds from games of a bunch of different consoles. r/LostWave. So LostWave is a subreddit dedicated to sharing, discovering, and searching for really obscure music. Most of this music is just like a random song that's being played in the background of a video, and sometimes it does actually get found. 21 Kid Goes Missing hoax. So back when Vine was a thing, there was the one that you've probably seen.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
Well, a few years ago, some people started a rumor that the kid from the video actually went missing, but this was later proven wrong when the original creator of the video made another with the 21 Kid and showed that he was just there. Filthy Frank Kenya song. So, Filthy Frank, or Joji, used to make YouTube videos. In one of these videos, he includes this clip where he dances to this random song in a different language. People have now been searching for this song for a really long time, and still no one has found it. This song is in a language called Luganda, which is spoken in Africa. So I just came back to edit this script like a week later. They literally just found this song. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Katonda Alinawe by David Sun GC. It's literally just been on YouTube this whole time. Unlicensed SpongeBob Persian dub. There are, for some reason, multiple Persian dubs of SpongeBob. So like someone will record what the actors actually say in English, but in Persian, and then edit that over the original so you can understand it. Pack.png. So in Minecraft, there's this placeholder photo that's used for like a new world or texture packs and stuff like that. The picture looks like this, and as you can see, it's a photo from a Minecraft world. This led some people to wonder what the original world seed actually was that produced this photo. Somehow, through like reverse engineering a bunch of stuff, they found the original seed for the original version. Creepy audio captchas. So, captchas are used to verify that the person accessing a website is a real person and not a robot. So, the tests are normally pretty specific and odd to ensure that it's a person doing it. Sometimes the captcha requires you to listen to a series of numbers and write them down, but some of these audios are like really weird and creepy. Slamfest 99. So, back in 1999, there was an official event hosted by Nintendo to promote the release of Super Smash Bros. This event was called Slamfest. There was an actual boxing match between Donkey Kong and Mario, which was live streamed to their website. This live stream is actually considered lost media though, as no footage of it is currently available. Celebrity number 6. So, back in 2020, a user on Reddit made a post showing a curtain that had 8 different celebrities on it, and he wanted to identify them all. All of them were identified except one, which was nicknamed Celebrity number 6. People still don't know if the celebrity is a man or a woman, or who it's even meant to be. Alright, time for level 4. Let's go. Samsung logo balls. So, if you remember the logo editing community from the second level, this one's kind of like an extension of that. So, if you look up Samsung logo balls on YouTube, you'll find this video. I'm pretty sure this isn't an official animation, but that's pretty much besides the point. Basically, there's this whole community that just puts weird effects on the animation and like uploads them to YouTube. Pink Morning Cartoon or TV8 Kids Fun Fest. So, in 2009, someone uploaded this video to YouTube, which was a really low quality cut from what looks to be an animated children's show.
For the grandma. Just as soon as they thought it was over though, Grandma said, maybe you better go out and play in the sunshine. Wow, it'll do you good.
The description read, I did not edit this. It was on an old VHS tape that I had. I would see this come on typically around 5 a.m. in the late 1990s, early 2000s. If anyone knows what this is or who made it, please message me. Well, sometime after 2020, the uploader of the video discovered a woman named Ella Flowers, who was seemingly affiliated with the production of the show. They reached out to find this woman had passed away in 2017, but her daughter was able to provide information, which stated that Ella had worked on the show and produced multiple episodes, which were only archived on VHS tapes, which were destroyed by a cousin. Since then, the only found existence of the Pink Morning cartoon is of the videos that were originally uploaded. Pamper Chew. So Pamper Chew is this person who, oh my god, acts like an infant. Like, he has a crib, and, you know, he has something called paraphilic infantilism, which is essentially when an adult wants to roleplay as an infant. Listen, I'm not one to, like, judge you for what you think is fun, but this is surely a little overkill. Guardians of the Galaxy ciphers. So, throughout the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, there are these galactic codes that you can briefly see. Well, these codes are actually real codes that you can, like, reverse engineer. This code right here. If you just use A1Z26, which just means that each number is its corresponding letter in the alphabet, you get, this is mom's cancer. Well, later in the movie, Meredith Quill dies from brain cancer. And then she has like a pretty significant legacy in the second one. So these codes are little hints that correlate to things that happen later in the series. Rainforest 2016. So Rainforest is the name of this furry convention that took place every year until 2015. Basically, the 2016 convention was actually canceled due to the absolute atrocities that had occurred the year prior. At Rainforest 2015, there was a ton of vandalism. According to the actual Hilton Center it was hosted at, they had to send 3 people to the hospital and call the police twice. People were stuffing towels in drains and causing floods. Barney Error. So if you remember the Caillou Gets Grounded entry from earlier in the Iceberg, I mentioned that they all use this program called Go Animate. Well, Barney Errors also exist in this Go Animate universe. Basically, Barney Error is the name of this fake computer virus that goes into your computer and asks you for a code. You have a certain amount of chances to input the code, and if you get it right, then he just goes away. But Lord have mercy, if you get the code wrong, he is gonna be pissed. Star Wars Detours. So, Star Wars Detours was this animated series that was supposed to be a comedic parody of the actual Star Wars movies. It collaborated with the likes of Robot Chicken, adapting their art style. Although 39 episodes were produced, it still hasn't aired since 2013, so I wouldn't count on it happening anytime soon. Treats for Beasts. Treats for Beasts is the name of this YouTube channel, which has quite a few weird videos uploaded to it. The first of which being Who Wants to Gnaw on Human Bones, which is quite a trip. Then there's Beasts, which kind of shows how humans are beasts who are ruining the planet.
Now that they're dead, you can sink in your teeth. I am the beast that grows the wheat. I make bread to eat it with meat. I am the beast that makes the fleece. Keeps you warm, keeps out fleas.
This channel has been around for quite a while and still uploads occasionally. John Lennon number 9 coincidences. So I'm fairly sure that this entry is referring to how in the Beatles song Revolution 9, if you reverse it, it sounds like this.
Number 9, number 9, number 9,
Robert Helpman / Daisy. Robert Helpman is the name of a YouTube channel which has uploaded a total of 10 videos. The article I read about this video says that there are 12, but apparently 2 have been made unavailable for unknown reasons. Each video is no longer than a minute, and they were all uploaded on the day the channel was created, July 12, 2015. These videos are incredibly unsettling, all centered around presumably someone named Daisy, who appears to be dead and stuffed in a trash bag. At random times in these videos, for a split second, there will flash an image of some broken English. So if you take all these flashes and put them together, they create this story. There was a lady all skin and bone. Sure, such a lady was never known. It happened upon a certain day. This lady went to the church to pray. When she came to the church stile, there she did rest a little while. When she came to the churchyard, there the bells so loud she heard. When she came to the church door, she stopped to rest a little more. When she came to the church within, the parson prayed against pride and sin. On looking up, on looking down, she saw a dead man on the ground, and from his nose unto his chin, the worms crawled out, the worms crawled in. Then she unto the parson said, Shall I be so when I am dead? Oh yes, the parson said, You will be so when you are dead. Here the lady screams. You can make of this what you will, but it's almost 100% just an ARG. In fact, SpongeBob Dude 123 seems to think that they're fake, and Podorota TV had something pretty interesting to say about this. Aside from the main details, there's not really a whole lot going on here. It's a cool little thing, but there's not much else to say. H.H. Greg edits. So if you've ever seen this commercial before, you might know that it's been used in a lot of remixes and edits for some reason. This one is genuinely awesome though. Meet Bob. So I genuinely have no idea what this one is talking about. The Iceberg has this one hyperlinked to a YouTube video, but it's been taken down apparently. The Wayback Machine doesn't have any archives of this video. Google searches don't give me anything. So I'm sorry, Bob. WebDriver Torso. WebDriver Torso is the name of a YouTube channel which currently has over 624,000 videos. Almost all of these videos are just these red and blue rectangles moving around the screen. For years, people have speculated that this was like extraterrestrial contact or like a bunch of other random stuff. YouTube did come out and say that it was just a testing account for like whatever reason. If you search WebDriver Torso in Google, the Google logo becomes like the little squares, so that's a little Easter egg. Cubo's final broadcast. Cubo was this children's television channel which ran in the early 2000s. Well, in 2021, the channel was set to shut down due to a lack of funding. This caused a lot of people to create these fake, creepy scenes where it was like, this is the final broadcast of Cubo, and then kill all the characters. This is what actually happened though. Wario dies videos. So on YouTube, there's this really specific subgenre of animation videos where they just depict Wario dying in these like absurd ways, like spilling coffee. Random girls appearing in Family Guy compilations. So this one is really weird. 2 years ago, a user made a post on Reddit which discussed how on this specific YouTube channel dedicated to making compilations of Family Guy moments, at the end of each video, there would just be clips of young children doing whatever. These clips aren't inherently inappropriate, it's just the fact that they're there at the end of each of these videos for about 2 minutes each.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I'll bump into her in 18 years. What? Did you really think I was gonna change that much? Get out, everybody!
Hey guys, Liv here today, your Tuesdays on the Air Faction, and this week's theme is what are you doing over the summer?
The comments are mostly about the Family Guy videos, but you can always find a few that are talking about the children in really weird ways. It was found that pretty much all of these videos are taken from a channel called the Arrow Faction, which is just an innocent family vlog channel that stopped uploading 5 years ago. Some people speculated that these videos were being used to avoid copyright detection, but I mean, you don't have to use clips of children for that. It was also thought that they could be being used to get the videos to be over 10 minutes long, but that can't be true either, as a lot of videos aren't over 10 minutes even with the extra bit. It still hasn't been found out why this was happening, but all the videos that it occurred in are now private, but the channel is still up. It's a pretty weird situation. Mr. Anime. Mr. Anime, better known as Lenscap Productions on YouTube, was an anime reviewer back in the early days of YouTube. He started uploading anime reviews back in 2006, and these continued on until 2012. There was nothing really out of the ordinary about these reviews. Well, on March 20th, 2012, Trey lured his mother out into the garage where he shot her in the chest. He then shot his brother and father, their family pets, and then proceeded towards his school where he planned to commit mass murder. On the way to school, the reality of his situation hit him, and he turned back to his house where he was arrested. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Cartoon Incorporated. So, Cartoon Incorporated was an alleged YouTube channel which baited children by posting videos titled things like Frozen 3 or other not yet released children's movies. These videos would then contain subliminal messages which said things like, take your clothes off and take photos of yourself. This in of itself is incredibly disturbed. A YouTuber named Mama Max then made a video about this where he highlighted the dangers and evils of this YouTube channel. However, it's kind of speculated that this channel never actually existed and that Mama Max kind of just made it up for entertainment purposes. This isn't confirmed, but it does kind of look like that. The snippet he showed is edited very similar to his normal style, and there aren't really any other mentions of it online. Chip Chan. Chip Chan is the name of this Korean woman who live streamed herself doing pretty normal everyday things. It was found that she was live streaming because she believed that the government had implanted some sort of tracking chip into her, which allowed them to control her mind. However, she did stop streaming, so many believe she's getting the help that she needed. DeviantArt Wonder Bread guy. So there's this guy on DeviantArt who commissions artists to draw pictures of attractive women in stores that are just filled to the brim with Wonder Bread. Like them, like, stuffing their cart with it. I don't really know. Level 5, the basement. Cobble_stone. Cobble_stone is the name of a texture that was used in an incredible amount of games back in the 90s. Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Mortal Kombat, Star Fox, and a ton of others. It was in a texture pack which was commonly utilized by game developers, and you might have never noticed that you've probably seen it before. The Manny will not be televised. So back when ACAB was kind of at its height, someone uploaded this video with just a drawing of Manny and someone saying things like, "Manny doesn't like police brutality."
The Manny will not be televised, man.
The Manny will not be televised.
Look, pissed off the Manny. Look how mad he is. He's tired of police brutality.
This led to Manny becoming like an actual symbol for ACAB in those kinds of movements. John.com. So I wasn't able to access this website through normal browsing or through the Wayback Machine, but I did find some Reddit posts discussing it. It appears that pretty much nobody actually knows what this site is. From what I can tell, it's just a website that has 9 photos on it, and if you click any of them, it takes you to a login page. But no one knows the login or anything. It's probably just a random website that was made back in the early days of the internet that's dead now. Kitty Shack's true identity. So in the Sims universe, they speak nonsense, which I think is pretty commonly known. Well, in The Sims 2, there was this singer that nobody knew who did the singing for. This was eventually covered by Wang, and the person who did the voice acting commented, confirming it was her. The Brazilian SpongeBob defecation incident. For those unaware, a Portuguese dub of SpongeBob played in Brazil right before the 2016 Olympics. Said dub created a frequency that caused everybody to shit their pants simultaneously, and the Brazilian government covered up the incident and used amnestics to make people forget and destroyed all news articles about the infamous Brazilian SpongeBob incident. Okay, this is obviously not true. It's just a funny little copy pasta. Tape World Monster. So, back in 2020, somebody posted on r/tip-of-my-tongue a photo of this cardboard cutout of a random creature that was in their video store that nobody could remember where it was from. Well, people got to searching, and they eventually found that this thing was in Spy Kids. I don't know how they found that, but that's pretty impressive. Imagine Dumb. Imagine Dumb was the name of a YouTube channel which had uploaded a lot of weird videos back in the day about, like, religion and Christ and demons and stuff. It was really weird. Well, their final video outlined a story of how they were extremely depressed, not taking care of themselves, and then they realized they could have a pretty bad illness, but they lived in a third world country where they didn't trust their doctors, so they flew to a more developed country to get a diagnosis. He said that he hoped he had cancer, so he would have a viable reason to commit suicide. Well, he found out he didn't have cancer, and he experienced this rejuvenation in his interest in life. So I guess this story does have a happy ending. This channel was renamed and reworked, and the older crazy videos were taken down. Now it's a pretty tame animation channel, but he hasn't uploaded in 2 years, so I hope he's alright. Searching Vaporeon on Google Images. If you search Vaporeon on Google Images, you'll get a lot of appropriate things, and then some not appropriate things. Unused SpongeBob production material. I think this is just talking about, like, cut episodes from SpongeBob, or like the Yummer that we talked about earlier. Level 6. The Crawl Space. Hey Kids. Hey Kids is a YouTube channel that was created in May of 2016. The channel might at first appear to be just another channel filled with mindless content for parents to put in front of their kids, but if you look around for a minute, you'll start to notice some unsettling aspects. Like, for the love of God, why are you using this thing as your mascot? And what do any of these titles mean? Never say good morning. Has Donald Trump become president? And the absolute classic, how does your mother beat you? The first videos uploaded to the channel are all these Finger family videos, and a few live action ones, all featuring this woman who I think is being held at gunpoint behind the camera. Most of these videos aren't really noteworthy, and the porcelain doll character doesn't even appear until the video Why Are You Scared? The channel description reads, Hey Kids is a 2D/3D animated YouTube channel aimed for 0 to 8-year-old, through colorful shapes and characters. Hey Kids will stimulate the children's imagination and creativity.
Want myself to know. Can I speak?
Now, the actual name of the channel is Hey Kids AI for Adults, but the description says aimed for 0 to 8-year-olds. So I'm not entirely sure what he was getting at there. At the end of the day, I think this is just a guy trying to get popular by parodying the mindless children's content that's mass-produced on the YouTube Kids app. Reddy. Reddy is the ship name of Richie and Eddie from the It movies. I think this is really weird because these kids are, well, kids. I don't think people should really be, like, shipping children. 112 Dirtbag. So, on the night of February 9th of 2004, a woman by the name Mara Murray got into a car crash on Route 112 in New Hampshire. Following the crash, she just went entirely missing. Her whereabouts are still, to this day, unknown. Well, in February of 2011, an account called 112 Dirtbag uploaded a video of an old man just maniacally laughing, and then at the end, text that said, Happy Anniversary. This made people think that this man was maybe the one who kidnapped Mara Murray, as her father had referred to the alleged kidnappers as dirtbags, and she went missing on Route 112. The man was investigated by police, but they found out that he was just some random guy who wanted attention, so he inserted himself into the situation. Memory hole. A memory hole is anything or any time when information is deliberately deleted or made very difficult to access in order to kind of make people think that something never happened. Resident Evil 3 poster mystery. So in the Resident Evil 3 game, there's this pinboard which shows quite a few seemingly plain photos of people. Well, quite a few of these photos have been identified as photos of actors or other famous people. However, 5 of the photos still haven't been identified. Tiger Electronics Interactive Pikachu and Meowth. So, these 2 toys were actually extensions of the original Furby, if you remember those. Well, Nintendo decided it would be a good idea to make Furbies, but of Pokemon instead. This led to these 2 pretty horrifying creatures being made. Fantendo. So, Fantendo is this website which allows users to freely write about their game ideas or create lore for games that varies from what's actually canon. The website seems pretty normal, but there is a mature category, so. Super Columbine Massacre RPG. Super Columbine Massacre RPG was a game released in April of 2005. It basically just replicated the events of the 1999 Columbine Massacre. The creator of the game has come out and said that it was like a respectful overview of the situation and his experience with it, but I think it's still pretty distasteful to essentially trivialize the lost lives of so many people on that day. He used an exclamation mark in the title, which doesn't really seem respectful to me. Alright, time for the final level. Stuff's getting pretty odd down here. It's gonna be pretty crazy. The Ohio Fault Lines Guy. The Ohio Fault Lines Guy is this person who, one time on 4chan, discussed how he is intimately aroused by the dividing fault lines within Ohio. I don't know. This is what that looks like. I hope he's not watching right now. Disney Seen It OST Negative Emotional Aura. Okay, this one just kind of confuses me. Seen It is a franchise of interactive games which people could play by purchasing the DVDs and the trivia cards to go along with it. Now, I don't really know how the game itself is played, but that's entirely irrelevant to this entry. Basically, some people think that the music that plays on the title screen of the DVD is, really unsettling. You can just have a listen if you want. Bone-chilling stuff right there. The whole thing is that there's no theme or structure to the song, and everything just kind of happens at random intervals. D-Man009 put it pretty well into words in the comments of the video. I feel the main reason of this whole package is so unsettling is due in large part to the fact that the music sounds completely aimless and directionless, with ill-fitting instruments switching in and out with no discernible pattern. The only thing resembling a melody being the main leitmotif thrown in haphazardly here and there, and yet the steady drum beat and occasional ticking clock sounds provide a subtle feeling of urgency and anticipation, as if something terrifying is coming, building up to a terror that never manifests, which isn't helped by the abstract and somewhat threatening visuals. Why is it so ominously lit? What's the deal with the slow-falling Mickey heads? Where is any of this happening? The heavy shading and lack of any distinguishing features apart from the violet silhouettes of everyone's favorite mouse conveys a feeling of isolation, a feeling akin to being stranded, floating aimlessly through the depths of space, seeing things humans have not nor will ever lay eyes on. While I think D-Man needs a brush up on run-on sentences, and I'm not sure why he assumed Mickey is my favorite mouse, I think this is a pretty good explanation of everything that people find unsettling about this song. At the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be scary. Garfield Playsand Incident. The Garfield Playsand Incident occurred a few years ago when a man ordered a giant stuffed Garfield plush from a company called Garfield Eats. He ordered this plush and everything was seemingly alright. The package arrived and then it was just a massive bag of sand. No Garfield, just this bag of sand for a playset. He spoke with the company about this and they pretty much refused to give him his actual order since they said it was a mistake made by UPS, but then UPS claimed the opposite. I'm pretty sure he never actually got his Garfield. Global Worldwide / Jimmy Maximum. So Global Worldwide and Jimmy Maximum are both names of separate YouTube channels. Both of these channels have only a few thousand subscribers and both have over 30,000 videos. I honestly couldn't find any information about this one, but I think I have a pretty good idea of what this is. If you don't know who Terry Davis is, he's the guy who basically created this operating system called Temple OS. He made it because he claimed that God came to him and told him he needed to make an operating system that would act as like an access point for God. That's pretty far-fetched by itself. Well, Terry Davis live streamed a lot of the programming of this operating system, and during these streams, you can tell that he is not well.
Here's an icon. Let's see. So I am the smartest programmer that has ever lived. On this distro,
He's diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and a few other things as well. Basically, I think that these two YouTube channels are just Terry Davis or somebody else using Temple OS, uploading weird videos of the operating system as like advertising or just for fun. I'd say they're most likely run by Terry. I don't think anyone else would have the commitment to upload about 40 videos a day like these channels did. The most recent uploads of either of these channels is on Global Worldwide, which was a year ago. It's a weird situation, but hopefully Terry is getting the help he needs. If you're still here after all of that, thank you. I mean, you've watched this much, you might as well subscribe. This took so long to make. I started writing this script back in May, then stopped for like a month or two, and then just picked it back up after finishing my last video. It was a long process, but I did enjoy making the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.